Hi, good morning, and welcome to Read with Chide, day 36. It's the 36th day, and we are this morning we're reading Exodus 36, 37, and 38. And later in the evening today, we'll read Exodus 39, 40, and Matthew chapter 23. So please do well to join us in the evening again. Welcome and thank you for joining. Um, Please do well to share this link with your friends so that they can join us and we can read the Bible together. I will jump right into it so that we do this quickly and continue with the day. Yeah. Exodus chapter 36, verse 1. Then wrought Bezalel. Remember, God had said, "Oh, I've given Bezalel special wisdom for making cunning works. Let him do all of these things that I said you should make for the tabernacle, for the tent, for the table, all of that." So, verse 1. Then wrought Bezalel and Aholiab and every wise-hearted man in whom the Lord had put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all manner of work for his service, for the service of the sanctuary, according to all that the Lord had commanded. And Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab and every wise-hearted man in whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, even everyone whose heart stirred him up to come unto the work to do it. And they received of Moses all the offering which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary, to make it withal. And they brought yet unto him free offerings every morning. And all the wise men that wrought all the work of the sanctuary came every man from his work which they made. And they spake unto Moses, saying, The people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which the Lord had commanded to me. And Moses gave commandments, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, Let neither man nor woman make any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. So the people were restrained from bringing, for the stuff they had was sufficient for all the work to make it, and so much. Remember when we were reading God's instructions for what they should make, how they should make it, what will be required, and all of that? Imagine all that was needed, and God said people should give for it. And they gave so much that they had more than what they needed, and they had to tell the people to stop. Okay. Verse 8. And every wise hearted man among them that wrought the work of the tabernacle made 10 curtains of fine twined linen. Give me a second, I just remembered that usually I announce on my WhatsApp to say that I am live, and I didn't do so this morning. I never forget to do that. So let's read the Bible. Paste it, the color, and okay, back to the Bible. Verse 8. And every wise hearted man among them that wrought the work of the tabernacle made 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet with cherubims of cunning work made he them. The length of one curtain was 20 and 8 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. The curtains were all of one size, and it coupled with 5 curtains one onto another, and the other 5 curtains it coupled one onto another. And he made loops of blue on the edge of one curtain from the selvage in the coupling. Likewise he made in the uttermost side of another curtain in the coupling of the second. 50 loops made he in one curtain, and 50 loops made he in the edge of the curtain, which loops made he in the edge, which was in the coupling of the second. The loops held one curtain to another. And he made 50 taches of gold and coupled the curtains one onto another with the taches, so it became one tabernacle. And he made curtains of goat's hair for the tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains he made them. The length of one curtain was 30 cubits, and 4 cubits was the breadth of one curtain. The 11 curtains were of one size, and he coupled 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves, and he made 50 loops upon the uttermost edge of the curtain in the coupling, and the 50 loops made he upon the edge of the curtain with which coupled the second. And he made 50 taches of brass to couple the tents together that it might be one. And he made a covering with the tent of ram's skin dyed red, and a covering of badger skins above that. And he made boards of the tabernacles of shittim wood standing up. The length of the board was 10 cubits, and the breadth of the board was 1 cubit and a half. One board had two tenons equally distant from one another. Excuse me. Thus did Thus did he make for all the boards of the tabernacle, and he made boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards for the south side southward, and 40 sockets of silver he made under the 20 boards. 2 sockets under one board for his two tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his two tenons. And for the other side of the tabernacle, which is toward the north corner, he made 20 boards. And there are 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward, he made 6 boards, and 2 boards made he for the corners of the tabernacle on the two sides, and they were coupled beneath and coupled together at the head thereof. To one ring thus he did to both of them in both the corners. And there were 8 boards, and their sockets were 16 sockets of silver, under every board 2 sockets. And he made bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards on one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the tabernacle for the sides westward. And he made the middle bar to shoot through the boards from the one end to the other. And he overlaid the boards with gold, and made their rings of gold to the faces for the bars, and overlaid the bars with gold. And he made a veil of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen with cherubims, which made he it of cunning work. And he made thereunto 4 pillars of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold. Their hooks were of gold, and he cast for them 4 sockets of silver. And he made an hanging for the tabernacle door of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen of needlework, and the 5 pillars of it with their hooks, and he overlaid their chapiters and their fillets with gold. But their 5 sockets were of brass. Exodus chapter 37, verse 1. And Bezaleel made the ark of shittim wood, 2 cubits and a half the breadth of it, and 1.5 cubits the height of it. And he overlaid it with pure gold within and without, and made a crown of gold to it round about. And he cast it 4 rings of gold to be set by the 4 corners of it, even 2 rings upon the one side of it, and 2 rings upon the other side of it. And he made staves of shittim wood, and overlaid them with gold. And he put the staves into the rings of the sides of the ark to bear the ark. And he made the mercy seat of pure gold, 2 cubits and a half was the length thereof, and 1 cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And he made 2 cherubims of gold, made beaten out of one piece made he them on the 2 ends of the mercy seat, one cherub on the end of this side, and another cherub on the other end on that side. Out of the mercy seat made he the cherubims on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubims spread out their wings on high, and covered with their wings over the mercy seat, with their faces to one another, even to the mercy seats even to the mercy seat ward were their faces were the faces of the cherubims. And he made the table of shittim wood, 2 cubits was the length thereof, and 1 cubit the breadth thereof, and 1.5 cubits the height thereof. And he overlaid it with pure gold, and made thereunto a crown of gold round about. Also he made thereunto a border for an handbreadth round about, and made a crown of gold for the border thereof round about. And he cast for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings upon the four corners that were in the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border were the rings and places for the staves to bear the table. And he made the staves of shittim wood and overlaid them with gold to bear the table. And he made the vessels which were upon the table, his dishes and his spoons and his bowls and his covers to cover withal of pure gold. And he made the candlestick of pure gold. Of beaten work made he the candlestick. His shaft and his branch, his bowl, his knops, and his flowers were of the same, and 6 branches going out of the side thereof, 3 branches of the candlestick out of one side thereof, and 3 branches out of the candlestick out of the other side thereof. 3 bowls made after the fashion of almonds in one branch, a knop and a flower and 3 bowls made like almonds in another branch, a knop and a flower. So throughout the 6 branches going out of the candlestick. And in the candlestick were 4 bowls made like almonds, with his knops and his flowers, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, and a knop under 2 branches of the same, according to the 6 branches going out of it. Their knops and their branches were of the same. All of it was one beaten work of pure gold. And he made his 7 lamps and his snuffers and his snuff dishes of pure gold. Of a talent of pure gold made he it, and all the vessels thereof. And he made the incense altar of shittim wood. The length of it was a cubit, and the height of it a cubit, and the breadth of it a cubit. It was 4 square. And 2 cubits was the height of it. The horns thereof were made of the same, and he overlaid it with pure gold, both the top of it and the side thereof round about. And the horns of it also he made unto it a crown of gold round about. And he made 2 rings of gold for it, under the crown thereof, by the 2 corners of it, upon the sides thereof, to the places for the staves to bear it withal. And he made the staves of shittim wood and overlaid them with gold. And he made the holy anointing oil and the pure incense of sweet spices, according to the work of the apothecary. Every time I mention the word apothecary, I feel like it's a special word because the name of my sister's pharmacy is the apothecary. So yeah, um, the family word, familiar word. Now we move on to Matthew chapter 23. 22. 22. Um, yeah, sorry, we're reading all the way to Exodus 38. You're not going to Matthew today. We'll read Matthew in the evening. Why did I mix that up? So we're reading Exodus chapter 38. Maybe I was too excited to talk about the apothecary, and so I missed that. Exodus chapter 38, verse 1. And he made the altar of burnt offering of shittim wood. 5 cubits was the length thereof, and 5 cubits the breadth thereof. It was 4 square. And 3 cubits the height thereof. And he made the horns thereof on the 4 corners of it. The horns thereof were of the same, and he overlaid it with brass, and he made all the vessels of the altar, and the pots, and the shovels, and the basins, and the flesh hooks, and the fire pans. All the vessels thereof made he of brass. And he made for the altar a brazen gate of network under the compass thereof, beneath under the midst of it. And he cast 4 rings for the 4 ends of the grates of brass, to be places for the staves. And he made the staves of shittim wood and overlaid them with brass. And he put the staves into the rings on the sides of the altar to bear it withal. And he made the altar holy with cords. And he made the laver of brass, and the foot of it of brass, and of the looking glasses of the women assembling, which assembled at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And he made the court on the south side southward. The hangings of the court were made of fine twined linen, and 100 cubits. And 100 cubits, their pillars were 20, and their brazen sockets 20. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets were of silver. And for the north side, the hangings were 100 cubits, their pillars were 20, and their sockets of brass 20. The hooks of the pillars and their fillets of silver. And for the west side were hangings of 50 cubits, their pillars 10, In the socket 10, the hooks of the pillars and the fillets of silver. And for the east side, eastward, 50 cubits. The hangings of the one side of the gate were 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. And for the other side of the court gate, on this hand and that hand were hangings of 15 cubits, their pillars 3, and their sockets 3. All the hangings of the court roundabout were of fine twined linen. And the sockets for the pillars were of brass, the hooks of the pillars and the fillets of silver, and the overlaying of their chapiters of silver, and all the pillars of the court were filleted with silver. And the hanging for the gate of the court was needlework of blue and purple and scarlet and fine twined linen. And 20 cubits was the length, and the height in the breadth was 5 cubits, answerable to the hangings of the court. And their pillars were 4, and their sockets of brass 4, their hooks of silver, and the overlaying of their chapiters and the fillets of silver, and all the pins of the tabernacle and all the courtroom about were of brass. This is the sum of the tabernacle, even of the tabernacle of testimony, as it was counted according to the commandment of Moses for the service of the Levites by the hand of Ithamar, son of Aaron the priest. And Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hor of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord commanded Moses. And with him was Aholiab, son of Ahisamach of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and a cunning workman, and an embroiderer in blue and in purple and in scarlet and fine linen. All the gold that was occupied for the work in all the work of the holy place, even the gold of the offering, was 29 talents, and 730 shekels after the shekels of the sanctuary. And the silver of them that were numbered of the congregation was 100 talents, and 1,760 shekels after the shekel of the sanctuary. A becker was for every man, that is half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary, for everyone that went to be numbered from 20 years old upward, for 600,000 and 3,550 men. 600,000 plus 3,000, that's 603,000, and then 500, that's 603,550 men. And of the 100 talents of silver were cast the sockets of the sanctuary and the sockets of the veil, and 100 sockets of the 100 talents, a talent for a socket. And of the 1,770 and 50 shekels, he made hooks for the pillars and overlaid their chapiters and laid them. And the brass of the offering was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. And therewith he made the sockets to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the brazen altar, and the brazen plate for it, and all the vessels of the altar, and the sockets of the court round about, and the sockets of the court gate, and all the pins of the tabernacle, and all the pins of the court round about. May God bless the reading of his word. Thank you for joining and for listening or watching. Please let me know in the comments what stood out for you as we read. Let me know what really, what questions came to mind, what thoughts came to mind as we read, and we will discuss them together. Do have a lovely, lovely day. See you again at 9 p.m. as we read the Bible together. Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.